Hello, Mallards. It is Tuesday. It is actually late Tuesday evening. I was feeling kind of under the weather today for apparently just life reasons, I guess. Good news, not any sort of other illness. But it means that I spent a fair amount of today sleeping. And I also watched some episodes of The Expanse, a show that I am getting into and really enjoying. I also had a Zoom with Brandon where we just talked about life and caught up on everything. And that was also just really lovely. So it has been overall, I guess, a pretty lazy day, but a much needed day of rest. And the other thing that I have been doing is rereading the Animorphs books. So a podcaster that I like, Will Williams, has never read the Animorphs books and decided that that is what they wanted to do. So they're doing this podcast called Never Morphed, where they are reading the Animorphs books for the first time and talking about them. I'll put a link down there to the Hug House Productions website that has information on that podcast and all of their other incredible podcasts. And I was really excited about that idea because I love the Animorphs series. The only podcast, well, one of the other podcasts I've guest starred on, I've technically, I guess, guest starred on 2 podcasts, but the other podcast I've guest starred on was You Are What You Love. And on that podcast, I talked about Animorphs because that series fundamentally changed me as a child. I firmly believe that. And so I was really excited that Will was going to talk about those books in particular. And I figured now was the time to reread them. So I finished the first book yesterday and I'm working on the second. They're just as enjoyable now as they were back then, even if a bit of the really 90s language is very 90s. But I'm not necessarily upset by it because I'm of the right age for that to be nostalgic. I read these as a child. I absolutely said the things that they said in the books about how cool things were and being the coolest of the cool, of all of the cool things. And it's fun to just get back with those characters that I grew up loving. I wrote my first fan fiction about Animorphs without knowing that it was fan fiction. It's bad. It is a self-insert story, and it's not good. But I'm still proud of it, and it's still fun to look back on. And rereading the books is enjoyable. I like doing that, and listening to Will talk about the books has also been really fun. I also applied to be a guest star on the podcast, but they are on, well, I think that they have read like book 5 or 6 at this point, maybe even more than that by now. But the podcast is only released up to book 2. And in the application to be a guest star, they ask what book you would like to read. And the one that I want to talk about without question is 33. It is my favorite book in the series. It is dark. It is terrible. It is absolutely 100% the reason that I like all of the tags I like on AO3. And so if there's one book that I get to talk about, I want it to be that one. So I suppose I'll find out if I get invited to be a guest, and I'll let you know if that happens. But even if I don't get invited to be a guest, I'm super enjoying the podcast. I'm super enjoying rereading the books. And if you've never read Animorphs, you can find the PDFs online, approved by K.A. Applegate because the book is out of print. So she doesn't have a problem with people trying to find the PDFs because she understands that it's really hard to get your hands on a book that's out of print. So it's not like you're taking money away from her anyway. So definitely recommend checking them out if you've never read them before. They are dark. And you are going to be like, whoa, this is for kids? Surprise. Not only is it for kids, but I read it as a kid. And I love them so much. So I'm going to read some Animorphs and go to bed, and I will see you tomorrow.